give me detail, or maybe you read a headline? Who wants to support? Who knows anything about what happened in Bitcoin in 2022? Lovely. Let's pass the mic to that guy at the end in the lovely polka dot shirt. Thank you for supporting me. It's very hard to stand here in front of people and speak, so you're awesome. Tell me.
Thank you. About Bitcoin, this year there are around 300 million Bitcoins that have been sleeping for 10 years. That were discovered. There are around, is it 300 million Bitcoins that were sleeping from 2010 that were opened this year because of the recession.
I like that. So the session that we're going to have later, people are going to help us understand better what is happening, not only with Bitcoin, but cryptocurrency in general. Yes. Okay, I'm excited for that. I won't volunteer someone. Let me see if someone is going to raise their hand and tell me something good. Thank you. Pass the mic to this awesome gentleman before I can introduce my awesome core news anchors. Tell me something interesting in 2022.
Okay, the most interesting thing I saw in 2022 was the FTX collapse.
Oh.
Yes.
Are you ready to understand what that means?
Most definitely.
Yeah, me too. Do you know what was interesting for me in 2022 when it comes to crypto? Thank you so much. Our crypto crypto company founders cursed. Have you noticed they've been dying since 2014? Do you guys follow conspiracy theories? Am I crazy? Like in the last 2 months, there are 2 who died, you know? Guys, then this is the perfect session for you. Allow me to introduce my panelists. Number 1, we have you. This is a man you're familiar with, Mr. Rufas Kamau. Rufas, please come to the stage. While they come to the stage, let's clap, let's be lively. Rufas. I know you guys know what Rufas does at FXpressa, but you guys know that he loves playing chess. He actually participated in the league and he won a lot of money. Did you? Am I lying? Or you lost? It's okay. Don't worry, we're here to support you. I can't play chess. Who can play chess? That is so cool. I have to say, if you're single and you want to have, just tell the lady you play chess. It's very sexy. Very sexy. Rufas, you heard me? Good. My next panelist, I have Mr. Jesse. Mr. Jesse Ogola, where are you? Good. I don't know what Mr. Jesse. Jesse will introduce himself and what he does at FXpressa, but what I like about Jesse, he said 2022 has been so hard on him. What he wants to do is go to the middle of Lake Victoria and forget everything. Yeah? Good. I'm excited. You guys know this is a beautiful island in the middle of Lake Victoria? Takapiri Island. It has white, sandy beaches. Explore your country. It's absolutely, absolutely beautiful. Finally, one of my favorite people from FXpressa, Samson. Karibu. Young, handsome gentleman, let's go. But I only have gentlemen here. Where's Collins? Collins, you hired me for this job. Am I the inclusivity hire? You're like, okay, let's get a woman here. Okay, good. Samson, ask Samson, tell me something fun about yourself. He said, I'm a very boring person. So thanks. Thanks for helping my introduction, okay? All right, reminder, I'm Just Ivy Africa. Follow me on social media. I will be your host for this particular session. I'm really excited. For me, this is class. I always like telling people I'm learning and taking them with me. 2022, all right. Samson, you said you're boring, but just, where's the mic? You've been mic'd? Good. Introduce yourself because you're a fresh face today in the session. So introduce yourself, what it is you do in FXpressa, and what it is that you're hoping that they will achieve from this session today. I think we'll have to keep passing a mic. We are also recording this for a podcast, so my dear panelists, remember that. I need everybody to just use that. And my mic also keeps going.
Hey guys. Hi, you look so tired.
It's a crowd. It's a but maybe 2022 has been.
But hopefully 2023 will be better. So my name is Samson. I'm from FXpressa Eldoret branch. So I think that's why I'm a bit late. But for this session, I'm hoping that everyone understands some basics to do the crypto markets, what has been happening, and in general also the markets, what has happened in 2022 and what we expect in 2023. And yeah, I think basically that's it.
Okay, fantastic.
Hey guys. Hi, my name is Rufas Kamau, markets analyst at FXpressa. So my job is pretty simple. I look at the markets, look at the news, what's happening around the world, and then basically break this information down for consumption for our clients.
You said your job is very simple. How much do you make? It's like I'm kidding. Jesse!
Hi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Jesse Ogola. My job description is quite interesting because first of all, I do retain one of our high net worth clients. And besides that, I do engage with a lot of Twitter spaces with Rufas, and especially within the financial literacy. So I hope today, given that this year we have had a lot from the central banker that is moving the markets, I hope you can be able to know how you can use some of the policy directions they make and announce to make your investment, of course, safe and manage your risk well. Thank you.
No, fantastic, Jesse. In fact, let me start with you because you have the mic, and you sound a bit, really excited to talk about what happened in 2022. I want us to start with currencies.
Yes.
It was a very interesting year for currencies.
Yes.
Tell me what your thoughts are. What happened?
First of all, we had Euro USD, that is the euro against the dollar, hitting the lowest level since the introduction of the euro in 2000. And that was primarily because the US dollar was gaining strength aggressively against many other pairs. And number two, the US Federal Reserve, for those who don't know, is basically like the central bank of US. They were aggressive in their interest rate hikes to at least address inflation, because during the pandemic, you had the US, they were receiving at least $2,500 on a bi-weekly, and that was to, of course, offset the effects of COVID and everything. So when there is a lot of money supply in the markets, the prices tend to rise because if all of us are rich, why don't we charge you more? So that affected the euro dollar. Another one is, of course, Japanese yen, because I believe most of you do trade it, right? So the Bank of Japan took a different direction. They were not aggressive in their hikes, but you see that affected, of course, how the Japanese yen would weaken to its highest level of up to around 140 against the dollar. So most of the traders were quite wondering, will it continue to go up, or will the Bank of Japan do some action to tame that? Because, when the currency is too weak, it's bad for the economy. And for traders, so long as there is volatility, it's good for them.
Yeah, but I actually thought the Japanese government did intervene for the first time in around 20 years.
Yes.
Yeah,
so I think we are almost in a 2008 financial crisis similarity in terms of a lot of actions from them. But hopefully it should be able to end so that people are not so much afraid of investing long term.
Okay, so tell me when you say you feel like we're about to get into the same area as we were in 2008, what are the implications for the trader sitting in this room and for the layman who would probably be listening to this podcast and for someone like just Ivy who's here to learn?
Okay, interesting. Now, say you want to invest in a company like Apple, Facebook, Tesla. If the US dollar is extremely strong, it means that they cannot sell their products to a lot of their clients, So people will be buying at a low quantity as opposed to how they would if the dollar is within average, let's say 102 to 104 levels. Now, for a trader, for a currencies trader, whether the dollar becomes strong or weak, you are happy with that because you get the volatility, you can trade there. But for long-term investors, their value of their portfolio, you can see Apple dropped from around $180 a share to something like $137 a share, besides them launching a very superior phone this year, iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Pro Max, with amazing features. So it means, of course, it hurts the revenue stream for Apple. Another one is, case example, Facebook. Earlier in the year, they were trading at $300 a share, and right now they are trading at $178, let's say sub $200 a share. As an investor in Facebook, you'd be having a drawdown in your portfolio. So that would be affecting for those long-term investors. But for traders, market goes up and down. They just want to take advantage of that.
Yeah, in the words of Brian Myers, embrace volatility. Jesse, I want to bother you a little bit. We've been requested to switch seats. They want my face to be seen in the camera, not yours, I'm sorry. Let me just take my position, Rufus, Samson, what are your comments? on currencies. I know Jesse has touched a little bit on the stock market, which we will go to next. He's preempted a few of my questions. I want to understand what your thoughts are. Do you agree? Do you disagree? How do we move from here?
Okay, so I'll just add on to what Jesse has said. The first thing to know about currencies is it's either being moved by fundamental news or by technicals. And in this case, this year we've had a very interesting year because most of the currencies being traded had various very obvious fundamental factors affecting them. For example, in Japan, we all know that they are the biggest debt holders. Their debt to GDP is, I think, around 200. 100 and something percent.
Do you guys know that?
So, so just know they have a really big debt burden. We are complaining about debt in Kenya, but Japan's is just crazy. So what they had to do, their dilemma was they can't raise interest rates because their debt becomes very expensive. That's why you're seeing that they had to do the opposite of what other central banks are doing. And that's why you had a very obvious trend in USD/JPY. So once you understand what's affecting the trend, you can tell if it's going to continue or it's going to stop. And in the case of, say, for example, Japan, then you know that it's very hard for them to try and raise interest rates because they can't really, it's going to be very expensive to service their debt. Yeah? So doing the opposite means going against other central banks, and that means now the Japanese yen will most likely continue weakening. And then you head over to the Eurozone, where there was another dilemma. So this year has been full of dilemmas. For the Eurozone, the main dilemma was inflation. Again, the mandate of the central bank is to raise interest rates, but with whatever is happening in Ukraine and Russia, that wasn't really possible. And that's why you had another very obvious trend in Euro. Yeah? So once you understand these factors, even as a technical trader, it's very easy for you to progress with your analysis because you know what exactly is moving the price.
Rufas, will you comment on that? Or do I hit you with the next question? You were nodding, you were writing notes, it's like you wanted to say something. Next question, yeah? I want to thank Samson for helping us understand at least the mechanisms, because I know other than understanding the history of currencies and how they move, you have to understand the mechanisms of how they work. So thank you for that. So, Rufus, talk about the stock market that Jesse had touched on, especially in terms of new investors. What happened in the year 22 when it came to stocks?
When it comes to the stock market, we majorly focus on the US. I think it's the most vibrant and also the most liquid. So,
just one second. Is that, the kitchen, I know you're working so hard for us. Can the chopping just be a little bit quieter? Thank you.
So, what we experienced since the beginning of the year is that, I remember the first week of January, the SP 500, which is basically the benchmark that tracks the performance of the US stock market, was hitting a new all-time high. And then since then, the trend has been going downwards. So the stocks trading in the New York Stock Exchange, the Dow Jones, NASDAQ, all of them have been going down. So when you look at the specific sectors, I think the worst hit is the technology sector. So from the bull run we experienced during 2020-2021, things were flying high, stocks were doing double-digit, three-digit figures. Since then, we have seen the market generally pull back down. However, the energy sector has been very strong. It was the best performing sector in 2021 and also the best performing sector this year.
Is there a reason?
Yes. So currently we are in an energy crisis. So whenever there's an energy crisis, you look at where it's coming from. In this case, it's coming from the supply side. So we know there's a small number of countries that produce and export oil for the rest of the world. The OPEC plus countries, majorly from Saudi Arabia to Africa, they have been operating normally, but for the supply that was coming from Russia, it's no longer existent, especially in the West. So by supply being absent, it basically pushed more pressure to push prices higher. So that's why we have been seeing energy go up. So it has been causing a lot of inflation. So a lot of countries have been drawing from their reserves. So for instance, the US has a strategic reserve. So they basically draw from that reserve and then push that oil in the market, which puts pressure for oil to go back down. So if you look at Brent oil, has almost erased all the gains it had made early in the year. So we are trading at prices that are very close to January this year. Same case for US crude oil. So we are seeing prices going back down, and this is good. When oil is cheap, then we start seeing manufacturing to get a boost.
So we are definitely operating in sort of like a bear market, but I like that you moved to the positive in that you've spoken about the bull market in general. I want to go back to Jesse. Jesse, you have spoken about tech. This was a horrible, horrible year for Meta. Horrible.
Yes.
Yet, on the flip side, we do see, for example, still horrible actually for Amazon, horrible for almost everyone.
Yes.
That you would expect to perform well, especially for a new investor, let's say like me.
Yeah.
The first thing I would do is go straight to tech. What are your thoughts on that? What's going on? Especially, Microsoft has come to Kenya. Do you guys know this? Amazon is here. So they're moving, they're shifting to Africa, but they're performing so badly. What am I supposed to do with this information?
Yeah, so I'll go. The relationship between stock and inflation is related because technology is something you spend more or less as a luxury. Because if you have a phone, it is working, and it's iPhone 10, and there is a new iPhone, you would choose it when you have some extra or surplus income to enjoy its benefit and its new advantages, yeah? And earlier in the year, I think Meta came about with Metaverse. I don't know if any of you has been able to check about Metaverse. Exactly. Now, Metaverse had subscription from major banks like JP Morgan, who set up a stall, and you could own even apartments virtually within
pieces of land.
Yes.
Yeah.
But now the commercial aspect of Metaverse was not, I'd like to say, realistic, because you could not see how they could earn from, let's say, you owning it. It was more like how do I put it, a token, and you hope. Yeah. So I think when investors realize, okay, there is no commercial value in this because there is no revenue stream, why would I invest? So people started maybe cashing out and abandoning it for other features. Yeah. So that affected, of course, Meta a lot. And then there was a lot of privacy concern within Meta, and that negative sentiment affected its price in the markets. When we talk about Amazon and, of course, companies like maybe Apple, it has a direct relationship, of course, with inflation. It going above 9% as opposed to a medium term of 2% affected a lot of people's income, because you're spending if you have 1,000 shillings that you would spend today, the same value of good would increase by almost 9%. Right now, let's say last year it was 1,000 shillings, right now it's almost, let's say, 800 shillings that you could spend. So if you are spending 800 shillings of value, it means you cannot maybe buy something else. So that has a direct correlation again with the revenue streams of this company. So that is why the tech sector was failing. And like he said, in 2020, when there was a lot of money, people were more or less actively trading in this tech stock, and that is why it drove it up. And then when reality kicked in, people realized, no, let me now start planning my finances actually. Yeah, so that is what at least happened within the tech sector.
Okay, I want to go to Samson. There's something you mentioned about the metaverse that I think would pick up nicely. Is it similar to what happened when crypto was, brought about? The first time people heard about crypto, there was no really way to really use it, so the initial investors probably cashed out. And while you tell me about that, tell me about what happened to crypto in the year 2022. It was a weird year for crypto, but weird is good, I guess.
So I think when you come to Facebook and Meta, the first question was, the entire product was a bit contentious, because at the end of the day, what exactly is it you're launching? Don't we already have metaverses or something like that? Like, for example, guys who go for online gaming and you're gaming in a platform where it's already virtual, there is land already, you can do other things. So it was very contentious with what exactly it was they were trying to do. Then the second thing was Facebook or Meta spent a lot of money on the project, or it's still currently spending a lot of money on the project. And that means they're losing big on other things they should be focusing on. I'm a personal critic of Meta, but that's on the side. But yeah, so since they're spending so much, they're making so many losses, it doesn't make sense to a lot of investors. Then the last thing was they got in with the hype. So the time Meta was launching, crypto was up there, yeah? So it sort of came tumbling down when the market started falling from there. So when it comes to crypto, one thing you need to know is that in a bear market, things become very correlated. So if I'm looking at a stock market, if times are good, apart from 2020 and 2021 when the Fed
Phones on
was
silent. Thanks.
when the Fed was intervening in the market. But if times are good, correlations in the market are not that strong. But if everyone is selling, everything is falling, you know. So that's why tech stocks are falling. That's why other sectors are performing so badly. So that falls also into crypto because a lot of investors that invested in tech are also investing in crypto. So when everyone decided to sell their shares, you're also selling your crypto portfolio. So there was that correlation between a lot of crypto assets and the Nasdaq, and that's where that comes in. And then another big, some big events that happened were crypto exchanges collapsing. I think Rufas can elaborate that in detail.
FTX, what happened, man? What happened? The news is so scandalous. Have you guys watched how it was a love, not even a triangle, it was like quadrangle. It was so weird. What happened with FTX?
So, in 2022, I think that has been big news. So, FTX was not the first exchange to collapse this year. I think it was the fifth. We saw Celsius, among others.
But it was the largest.
Yes, FTX was the largest depositor. Now, literally had billions of dollars worth of clients' funds. So, what happened is that FTX had a sister company called Alameda. So, with Alameda, they were able to take clients' funds, that is reserves, and then trade with them in the open market. So, technically, whenever you, let's say, deposit money with a crypto exchange, they basically credit your balance in a spreadsheet. So they'll say Ivy has deposited $1,000. Then they will write that on the other side of the app. So you'll see your balance is $1,000. But then the amount you deposited, be it Bitcoin, be it a stable coin, those are funds that are supposed to be kept in reserve. So instead of keeping the funds in reserve, they push them to Alameda so that they can trade with them, then make money, and then push back the money to their clients. So I don't think they were very good at trading.
To attend the Expressa events.
So recently, an online document was leaked about Alameda's books, and people realized that the reserves they had were not liquid enough. It's more or less like having assets that you cannot convert to cash instantly. So once they realized that the FTT token was not liquid enough, one of the biggest persons who stood to lose the most from such a revelation was Binance. So in a previous deal, Binance being the biggest exchange in the world, it had gotten somewhere around, I think, $580 million worth of FTT token. FTT token is the native token for FTX. Yeah. So they realized that the FTT token is not liquid enough. So the CEO basically tweeted that he's going to liquidate his position. So selling for $580 million worth of that token would seriously push down the price of that token.
Yeah, cripple it, basically.
Yes. So the information spread, and at the same time, when speculators were shorting the FTT token, expecting the price to go down, they were adding more pressure for the FTT to go down. At the same time, people realized that there are other problems with the firm and started withdrawing their funds. So, as I mentioned, when you deposit, you get your account credited, but they use the funds. So, when the bank run started, people basically withdrawing their funds from FTX, they didn't have enough funds to cover their clients' deposits.
And I remember there was a time, I think it was the largest transactions ever. So around in November, $4 billion worth of withdrawals were made.
Yes. So literally, they actually pushed this to $5 billion. But once they got to $5 billion, they didn't have any more assets to honor clients' withdrawals. So the firm had to file for bankruptcy. So the case is currently ongoing. But yes, I know a lot of people are affected, and this is really bad, especially when you trust an institution and such a thing happens. So going forward, we'll be seeing more regulation of these exchanges.
Like in 2023,
Yes.
based on what I think the CEO of Binance said?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the other thing we are expecting is proof of reserves.
Yeah.
Like
I want to go back actually to regulation in terms of what you think.
Yes.
Because the beauty and the beast when it comes to crypto is that it moves and regulation will follow. So what type of regulation exactly do you think will be seen? Like what do you, yeah.
So I'm thinking of regulation as a process that focuses on investor protection and also transparency in both pricing as well as reserves. So regulated firms will be able to, let's say, KYC their clients, of course, to control the anti-money laundering and all that. I expect there will be payment of taxes. You're running a business, you need to pay taxes. At the same time, I expect to see a lot of transparency in reserves. So the moment you deposit your money in a reserves, in an exchange, there is a third party or a government body that makes sure that that exchange has those reserves in stock. Yeah. So this would avoid the events of the FTX.
How will that affect the technology? Because I think the whole beauty of decentralized finance was we were avoiding the third party. How is this going to affect us? Yeah.
When it comes to crypto, Bitcoin, a majority of these projects, like 90%, are centralized. They are not decentralized.
It's not, okay.
However, they are distributed. That is, you're able to offer the same service on a blockchain or a distributed network where multiple people can interact with the blockchain. So distributed doesn't imply decentralized.
Okay. Wow. I wish I had my pen here to write notes. I've taken over the session and this is a possible class to me. Samson, what are you saying?
Just a comment though.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is to Rufas because I'm also curious. How do you regulate a decentralized entity? Because we have centralized exchanges, those ones they have offices and everything. But once you have projects being run by a community of people in whatever part of the world, how does regulation come into play?
So if a project is purely decentralized, like Bitcoin, you can't regulate that. Okay. However, if a firm is offering this product to clients, then you can regulate the firm. Yeah. Okay. So you can't regulate land. You know, commodities can't be regulated. But if it's a firm that is issuing securities, then you can regulate that. So there are crypto projects that actually qualify as securities. We call them digital securities, where let's say you invest in this particular product with the expectation that there will be some profit as a result of other people doing some stuff of the project. So if there's no such an expectation, then it's basically fails what you call a Harvey test. Yeah.
Jesse, you grabbed that mic, means there's something hot I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think I don't know if anyone heard about Ethereum merge recently. Yeah, so basically what they did is now to, what Rufus said, proof of stake. Now it qualifies as a security, meaning that you can regulate the pricing, you can avoid things like market manipulation, and you can of course regulate things like market abuse, where maybe somebody says a false information just to drive the price of that security up or down. And you know, with technology, it always has some, let's say, years of market absorption, and then the regulator will be able to see, okay, this one, we can do it. We can, let's say, make sure that we know who is depositing what and what is the equivalent of his security. Because if you remember, I'll take you back to a class of 1980s when derivatives market were coming about, whereby you could not necessarily own the share of the company, but you can trade on the paper value of that company. It was something new, something not seen before, but right now it is a very well-regulated industry, and I believe we as FXpress also play within that rules. So you see, technology always has to give itself some time so that we are able to make mistakes, correct them, see where we can improve, and therefore the most important thing of regulation is to protect investors' interest within that space.
Yeah, I like that you said that because, of course, technology evolves in much faster ways than the human would ever evolve. Jesse, now that you have the microphone, please tell me what it is that we can expect in the final quarter of 2022 when it comes to the markets.
For the final let's say the next, that would be 27 or 28 days of December, I think most investors will be looking to see how the government, especially the US Federal Reserve, would decide on their interest rate, just to see if they'll be able to add a little bit more to tighten the noose on the money supply. So that is the significant news you're expecting. Another piece of news is, of course, recently, I think it was last week, we saw the Kenyan inflation come down to 9.5. So that's a good sign. Maybe the cost of living is easing. So that is what I'll be looking at as we prepare for 2023. So if the cost of living is easing, it means December you can eat well, knowing that at least you won't have to spend more than you would have wished for.
Go borrow from Hustler Fund so you can eat well in December. Okay, understood.
That's another way to put it.
Understood. Let's go to 2023. What it is that we're expecting in 2023. Currencies, or oil, gold. Rufus.
2023 looks promising. One of the things we are expecting is the bottom of the bear market. So out of stocks, crypto, all have been going down this year. So 2023 we expect to see at least the bottom, and then the market picks up and starts moving up.
This is despite the fact that, I don't know, I know you're an analyst, but I was reading that it is anticipated that either by the end of 2023 the US will go through a recession, or is that true? Am I just, what's going on there?
The definition of a recession is an economy that contracts for 2 consecutive quarters. So we already had that in the US this year. So the US is already in a recession. So the Eurozone is also in a recession. And I think Kenya, we are close to that. So recessions generally last for about a year, statistically. So if you've been in a recession this year, then I think we might start seeing some stability into 2023.
Okay, that's why you're saying it's going to be good. Cool, noted.
So, following the central bank direction, that's the Fed, in the last meeting, they mentioned that they'll be looking to slow down the interest rate hikes, which have been strengthening the dollar and weakening the stocks. So they were looking to slow down from currently 4%, so small increments towards 5%, and then keep them there for a period until inflation drops to 2% target. So once they achieve that, then the next step will be expecting the Fed to start cutting interest rates. So investors are focused on the cutting of interest rates. That's what we basically call the pivoting. So if the Fed pivots by cutting interest rates, then that should be the genesis of the bull market. However, investors don't wait until the Fed does it. So they follow the forward guidance. So a couple of months before the Fed starts hiking interest rates, we should be able to see investors making early bets in the stock market, and the bull market starts.
And I like that you're talking about the US. You said it's the most vibrant one. How about here? Because we know CBK raised rates recently. Tell me about that.
First of all, I haven't been dedicating a lot of time in the NSE. Mostly I've been focused on the US stock market.
Why? Why, Rufus? You're Kenyan.
Money is borderless. You have an iPhone.
Yes.
So don't just be the consumer, be also an owner.
Rufus, I'm on your side here, okay? We're the same team. All right, tell me.
All right. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that the fact that these products are borderless, like an iPhone can find its way to Kenya, and we consume that product, Google, and all these other products, we can also own those products. So the challenge with the NSE, I wouldn't say it's the best. So if you are to invest in stocks, why not invest in the best? Yeah. So the best, unfortunately, are not in Kenya.
These are just opinions of the panelists. FX Press should not take any. This is not an FX Press opinion. I'm joking. But I still need someone to tell me about CBK. Samson, Jesse, someone. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we are in Africa. We are in Kenya. And I personally really do want to know what the implications are for 2023 based on what has happened. So Rufus has given us beautiful advice, and I'll take it, I promise. But let's localize some of this just a little bit. Yeah.
Now, for me, I'm an Afro optimist, and I like to start from home. Yeah. So I've invested in NSE for a while, and I think it has its faults. Of course, the prices don't move as fast as you'd like. and some companies are not performing well. Case in point, Uchumi, you know what happened to Uchumi, right? So I think with the way this new government like to diversify a little bit just to see if it can be able to make sense to a lot of local investors, yeah? Now, we have seen the president being proactive to spruce up the NSE. Maybe if they're able to integrate new technology, it can make the trading better, right? Now, there's a point in time last year, Safaricom was trading at around 40 shillings per share. Now, that is a good thing. If it dropped to around 21 level, I think, before election, and right now it's around 29 shilling a share, you see that's around 9 shilling capital gain for you as an investor, right? Now, that is just one company. Like Rufas said, we need more company with a price movements like Safaricom. We do not need to have one. So if we're able to be confident about the companies we have in Kenya, and we're able to have more IPOs, initial public offerings, so that you can trade in them, that can be good. I think they promised around 10, quite ambitious, but even if they do 2, that is some positive news. So I am hopeful that we are able to see a growth in terms of market participation, and I think there are some derivatives within FXPesa that you can invest in, if you believe ABSA is a good bank, and with their project on women financing on business, you believe it can able to give them good returns, well and good, why not try it? Because in the stock market, so long as the fundamental telling you that it's good to invest, good in point. Of course, there is NCBA, heavily involved with Fuliza and everything, and I see they do get a lot of returns from that in terms of interest from payments. So that's another company to invest in, yeah? Yeah, so of course, Centum doing mega projects in Kenya, the Ferris wheel in to Rivers, and the biggest screen in sub-Saharan Africa within the Showmax. Probably that will get them a good amount of revenue and good PR or sentiment among investors. So I believe that Kenyan market has room to grow and can grow actually to the level of even, let's say, US by a third of it, yeah.
Rufus is laughing at you. Like you're lying. You're lying to people in this room. But no, I appreciate that take on things. Okay. Jesse, can you sign that off as official investment advice, telling guys here to go invest in Centum and SBA? These are not FXPesa opinions. These are personal opinions of the guys on the panel.
Those are my classic personal opinion based on the fundamentals of the company.
I don't want you to be in trouble here. Samson, you had something to say?
So saying, I had mentioned earlier that in a bear market, you have a lot of correlation. That means everything is practically moving in the same direction. If you look at stocks, they're all falling. If you look at interest rates for different bonds, then they're moving in a certain direction. So when we are coming off a recession, things fall apart. So you start looking at individual stocks or individual assets based off their merit. Because at this point, coming into 2023, there are some sectors in the market that will outperform other sectors in the market. So as an investor, it's good to sort of see what areas in the economy are starting to pick up, and most likely that's where you're going to find your biggest opportunities, because we are presumably coming to the end of a bear market. So this is one of the best times to get in the action.
Mapema and your best.
Mapema and your best.
I love it. Let's close. I want each of the panelists, starting with Rufus, to just guide investors coming into this market, into starting to figure out the bear market in 2023. Literally your parting shot for someone starting in 2023. What would you want them to take out?
I would say when it comes to investing, just like in any other industry, learn fast. Invest in learning fast. So don't invest in anything that you don't know how it works or its dynamics. So learn fast, and once you learn, then begin earning. To be honest, the best time to start investing was yesterday, and the next best time is today.
Ish, put that on a t-shirt. Samson.
I don't know what to say after Rufus's quote. Okay, so for a parting shot, when you're coming into investing, I usually tell traders that I talk to, when it's in life, you're always you always have someone telling you what to do, or you always have, be it in school, that's a teacher, be it at work, that's your boss. But when it comes to trading, it's just you and the markets. And the market is usually one of the harshest teachers out there. So one thing I'd advise is just get in, start small, and just practice. You'll learn as you go on.
I love that, Jesse.
Thank you. I think after them I'll just add one line. The biggest risk in life is not taking one.
Hey, I think we're supposed to clap. At this point, I think we're supposed to clap. I want to open the floor to questions from the audience. I'm sure maybe 1, 2, 3. How many can I have? 3 questions from members of the audience. If you don't ask, the answer will always be no. All right, let's go.
My question is, my name is Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Hi. My question is on gold, and in last FOMC, they increased with 75%. So they're saying that they could possibly increase with 50% in the FOMC that is coming on the 30th. I think it's on the 30th. So are we seeing a rate, probably, are we going back to 1695 to test the regions and then we go back up in the second quarter? That's my question.
Great question. Who's going to take that? Is gold a safe haven?
Thank you. I think gold this year has been challenged significantly in terms of it being a safe haven. When you would expect like inflation going up, gold to be quite aggressive in terms of people going to it. Yeah? So it has been showing mixed signals. I think this year is whereby your risk management is your best savior, protecting your cash. Yeah? Because as I see on my chart here, and this week it hit 1800, and I think we are talking with Rufas like it should have gone down, but it didn't. Yeah? So I think given the way the market is behaving, there are a lot of speculators who are moving the market as opposed to long-term investors. So that is why with the FMC say going to 50 basis points, as you have alluded, we cannot know and put a price to that. I think if you are able to have your risk management well, you can be able to just deal with it the way it is. So I think that would be my addition to that.
Rufus?
I think with the Fed raising interest rates 0.25% to 4% this year, that's big. It's making the US bonds very attractive. And to be honest, this year, the US dollar has been the inflation hedge. So it has been acting as the safe haven. A lot of companies went cash only as a result of the fear of the bear market. So going into next year, we might be expecting the dollar to continue being strong. So with the dollar acting as the safe haven, then gold continues going down. So yes, you're right. We might be seeing further downside in gold.
Samson also had something to say.
Yeah, I think when it comes to assets, their characteristics are always changing. Gold traditionally was perceived as a safe investment, yeah? But then if you take a look at the chart in 2022 and 2021, it was behaving the same way stocks are behaving. So it practically became a risk-on asset, yeah? So going forward, that's the first thing you need to look at. Is there a shift in the market dynamic that is going to change how gold behaves?
Beautiful. Another question? Michael, your question has been answered. You know how to move? All the best.
Dan?
Hey, Dan.
I'm good. What's your take on Eurozone capping the Russian oil to $60 per barrel? And will that have any effect on the inflation, or will it increase the chances of recession?
Samson, take that one. Yeah.
Did they vote? I don't think they voted to. They reported yesterday. So one of the things that is an issue with the markets is price controls are always going to lead to known fundamentals. For example, with the Russian situation, you might see the rise of black markets or bilateral agreements between countries when it comes to determining how much oil they should be selling. And then another thing is we have China on this other side. So capping oil in the Eurozone might not necessarily control prices everywhere. Yeah. So if, for example, I'm an oil seller or an oil marketer, then I wouldn't want to go sell my fuel where else I can get a higher price somewhere else. Because we're expecting the global economy to start coming up again, then we expect more demand in oil, and I don't think it's going to be very effective trying to cap the oil. So as with regards to recession, yeah, the Eurozone has so many problems at the moment. I don't think we're going to see any positive news in the next 1 year. Chances are we're going to maintain the status quo.
Rufas, anything to add?
When it comes to oil, I'm seeing a scenario where instead of oil coming directly from Russia, it goes to other countries and then they resell to Europe. So Saudi Arabia is currently one big player in the market, which is buying cheap oil from Russia and then redistributing at a higher price. So somehow the oil will find its way and demand is there. Europe can't survive without oil.
I think price controls are something that doesn't have the effect you'd expect it to have. If you remember, they capped the interest rate for banks, commercial loans in Kenya at around 14. After a while, due to a lot of factors, it didn't work. So I think, like they have mentioned, they will have to just go and take from another open buyer or willing seller, willing buyer, and whatever price they agree, that will be it. And in terms of recession in the Eurozone, they're already in one. I think UK was already even in a deep problem because they have changed their leadership too many times. That is causing stability and belief in how the politics will be run. So capping it is just a political move, not really an economic move that will affect the prices.
So long as Russian sanctions remain,
yeah,
we're easy. Lady, yes. Yes.
Hi everyone. My name is Rahab. My question goes to Rufus. Now, I believe you're a good analyst, yeah? The question is, out of all the trading strategies, what would you say are the 3 most powerful strategies and why?
It's a very good question. Let me tell you, I'm so happy a woman asked that question. Let's put Rufus on the spot. I like it. But I also want Jesse and Samson to also comment on that.
Yeah. The thing is, the stuff that works for me may not work for a different person. So I know I can't use the F word, but I would say mess around and find out. So what I mean by this, we have a demo account where you can literally mess around with different assets, look at stocks, equities, try out different strategies, see what works for you, and depending on your own unique circumstances. There are people who are working full-time, trading on the part-time, others are trading full-time. So find your own strengths in the trading environment and then adapt to that.
Yeah. But when it comes to trading strategies, it's really how you perceive the market. You'll have someone using a very simple moving, a simple moving average, and they're making tons of cash from that. And you have someone using 5, 6, 7 indicators on the chart, and they're struggling. Yeah. So you really have to understand what it is you're trying to achieve from the market, then know what tools you can plug around to play that setup or trade. For me, I don't necessarily use a specific strategy. I try and find the problem first, and by problem I mean opportunity, and then from there I try and see how I'm going to apply. Am I going to use a moving average? So you can either have a dynamic way of trading, where you're looking for problems first and then trying to fix, or you can have a structured way where you have your indicators already set up, and from there you want to probably place trades.
Are your questions being answered? Is your question being answered? Because they're being ambiguous, huh? Don't worry, catch them after this session, like nab them. Yeah, tell us, Jesse.
Remember I said the biggest risk in life is not taking one, right? So what are you trading for? For me, when I trade to make money for my day-to-day expenses, right? So I'd be maybe scalping or something like that, right? If I achieve my target for the day, I'm done with the market, I go about maybe making a nice meal and moving on. Number two, am I saving for an emergency cash in the future or something like that? So if I look at the market, I'll be looking at a long-term view of it. If it is a stock, if it is an index, I'll be looking at the longer picture. So primarily it's what drives you to trade or invest. If you're looking for short-term, address that by learning how to trade within the short-term period. If you're looking for long-term savings plan, you can look at the longer picture, learn how to do it, and I think that should be able to define what you want to, what would be the best strategy. Because bottom line, there is no one strategy that is the silver bullet. There is no other one. Everyone does their own thing so long as their personal objectives are achieved.
I like you said that because our friend here at the front decided to dive and risk it all and just go straight into trading. You're going to do well, you're going to do well. Anybody else? Yeah. So you guys at the front who are asking questions, no one at the back? Or is the smell of the food so strong you can't focus? Yeah? I've seen one guy, we'll get the mic to you, yeah?
My name is Dennis, and my question is, during the 19th, the US turned into paper money, and during the 1971, President Nixon removed the convertibility of dollar to the gold. And now what is happening is that the US are talking about going into digital currency. What is your take on that? How will it affect the economy?
Interesting. Anyone who has read The Fiat Standard by Steve Dean? The Fiat Standard.
Fiat Standard. Write it down, go find that book. That's Rufas saying. Go read.
Wait, that's where the question is coming. So, technically, currencies are already digital. Like right here in Kenya, a majority of our transactions are digital. Okay? So when central banks are looking to harmonize, it's majorly because the digital transactions are largely at the exposure of corporations. So for instance, I remember in 2020, when CBK wanted to do a stimulus package for Kenya, it had to go to Safaricom and then tell Safaricom to cut transaction costs for Kenyans. Remember that? Yeah. So if they actually run the currency themselves, then they wouldn't have to go to Safaricom. So there's a lot of corporates that run the fintech space around the world. So each and every country or central bank has had to work with those fintechs, but now they want it for themselves. So it's a progressing thing. I don't think it's going to happen this year or next year. There's a lot of issues involved, privacy control and all that. So we're actually learning on the go.
I think monetary policy will be very interesting, because assuming if the bank or if the central bank wanted to raise interest rates and they're using digital wallets, like everyone has a digital wallet, then they can just, it's just instant. So I think the field of monetary policy is going to be very interesting. But then again, as Rufas has said, when it comes to things like privacy, would you want the government knowing every transaction you've made? Even the small transactions. So there are also those issues that come into play. So it isn't a very straightforward solution, as many people think.
Basically, the 100 shillings or 1,000 shillings or 1,000,000 shillings you have has to have value, right? So if they are to create a digital currency, they must back it with something. We came from the way you explained it. I feel like we're in an economics class, my third year in campus. So I want to make it simple as possible. Fiat is basically your money backed by how the economy produces. So if the economy produces little, the value of the money definitely decreases. Number two, if come at Kenya, we do export little as opposed to how much we import, right? And meaning that we pay a lot in dollars and we earn very little from it. So that your difference affects the value of money. So digital currency, they have to find a way to back it on something tangible. Otherwise, they'll have to. It will be basically like a Zimbabwe scenario. You have $1 million, but it's just one loaf of bread. So for the digital currency, it is not something that will just go on like this. It has to have a proper structure to make sure that your value, that money has actual value and not just figures on your phone or figures on your card.
There was a guy at the back, pink and blue. Real men wear pink, by the way.
Hey guys, I go by the name Hunter. I have a simple question. What is your take on HISA, and is it the best window for a beginner stock trader in Kenya to invest in?
FX Peso is the best. I'm joking. Like, I'm not joking. Like, Rufas. I don't know if you... Talk about your competition, Collins. Let's hear. Oh, the boss himself. Good job. All right.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sam.
Yeah, my name is Sam Kiraka. For those who may have come late, I'm the CEO at AGM FX Pesa. That's an interesting question. I think we have options. And for us as a business, we are committed to be here in the long term, and you've seen that. It's our 5th year in the business, and we have a variety of options within EGM FX Pesa, both local and global. We are on the NSE through our derivative space, and also in the global markets through the app. For those of you who are here earlier, you're able to see what we are about to roll out. And that is going to be revolutionary. So the investment we are making, we are hoping that you will support us, and you will continue to support us. Thank you, and have a good afternoon.
That's how you do it. A round of applause. Also to my panelists. I think we've answered everybody's questions. I think we can close this up. I'm believing... okay. That will be the final... Do we have time? That will be the final question. The gentleman at the back. Complete back. Right next to the place the chapatis fell. That really hurt me, honestly. But mistakes happen, it's okay. If you eat a chapati and you bite into a rock, it's okay.
So, hey guys.
Hi.
I'm Joseph from Muranga. So my question is, with reference to the revolving between Russia and the USA, there have been speculations that Russia is planning to remove the dollar as the reserve currency. Yeah? So how will this affect the dollar and the currencies that are paired with the dollar? Thank you.
You guys have tough questions. With Russia, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, it was almost guaranteed that they would move away from the dollar system. So it's already happening. For instance, the business between Russia and China, they're using their own currencies. They're not using an in-between dollar. Yeah. So yes, it's quite a significant proportion, but there's still a very large part of the world that is purely dependent on the dollar system. So what we are seeing as the tightening happening in the US is affecting most of the global south. So a majority of the countries that have large dollar loans, like Kenya, Italy, Brazil, and so on, they still are very heavily dependent on the dollar. So our demand for the dollar in order to repay our loans will remain. So as long as the Fed keeps on tightening, we will still continue seeing a very strong dollar. So you should not be afraid that the dollar will fail anytime soon. I think it's still very solid.
How many have watched Black Panther? Good. How many have watched a couple of Marvel's movies have come out this year, right? I always tend to believe US has soft power, meaning that you tend to love it more than you'd love an aggressive Russian or Chinese authority, right? So with that in mind, a lot of investors tend to have these mutual connections to US, and that is why that soft power impacts you or even an economy to rely heavily on the dollar, given its historical historical background and sustainability and fairly moderate price movements in terms of volatility. So I don't see any country, let's say, just jumping into the ship and leaving the dollar for something else.
Okay, for me, I think it's a question of trust. So with the US, when we are all in distress, investors tend to rush for dollars, yeah? And when it comes to having an alternative mechanism, that means it's an alternative trust mechanism. And I think one of the things they're doing is basing their currencies from commodities. So that way they're trying to create that trust. We've seen Ghana trying to buy oil in gold, yeah, because of they don't want to use the dollar. So that's one way I could look at things unfolding, where people shift more to commodities that as a source of backing their currencies, other than the US dollar.
Fantastic. Okay. Guys, I think it's time to close this new session. My name is Just Africa. This was the news at 1 p.m. It's enjoy your lunch. Round of applause for our panelists, the last ones, so that we can go have our lunch. I had a lot of fun. Thank you, Rufas. Thank you, Samson. Thank you, Jesse. You guys are amazing. If you want to ask them any further questions, they'll still be around while you guys are having lunch. I encourage you guys to network, and get their contacts so you can follow them up later. Join their communities on Telegram. Remember, scan the QR code, use the FXpress, the Equity app, and go forth and make money. Colin, is there something else you need to say? Good. Guys, happy Saturday.